Welcome to Screenshots. Juan, what do we have for our viewers today?
All right, we're gonna talk about the short hills draws, the women and the men. We have Brad Easterbrook coming for an interview with you. He's also gonna give some tips to some of the players, beginners and advanced players, and he's gonna go over the short hills women's draw with you.
Now, why are you not doing the short hills women's draw?
I just feel like I got in trouble in the past. Not that I care too much, but I want to give the opportunity to another person to get in trouble. So I think Bradford is the right person to do so.
Well, if you're spreading the trouble around, that's going to take a long time because you really hoarded the trouble for a while.
I created trouble. And then you and I are going to discuss the men's draw. That is going to, I think it's a very deep draw and it's going to be a fun event.
Yeah, both draws are really good and should be some great paddle this weekend at Short Hills.
Yep. Okay,
we'll be right back. Okay, I'd like to welcome Brad Easterbrook to the show.
Thank you very much.
Brad is a former national finalist, been ranked as high as #2 in the country, and is the current president of the PPTA. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Brad, why don't you tell us a little bit what's going on with the PPTA these days?
Well, actually, there's a lot of exciting developments going on. In the next few months, there'll be hopefully some announcements where we're going to achieve a lot more exposure, a lot more brands associated with the PPTA. Also, we've had, continued certifications throughout the country. We did our first certification in Charlotte, North Carolina this year, expanding one down in Atlanta and continuing to move south. We had 50 new pros certified this year. So all in all, PPTA is doing terrifically, and there's going to be some fun, exciting things coming up where we hope to have a lot more exposure as well.
What's the current membership of the PPTA?
We're about 450 members, so getting up there.
And what do you think that is in terms of market penetration out of how many pros around the country?
That's a good question. I actually don't have any data on that, but I can tell you this much. Any pro who wants to get a job at a facility where paddle's a big part of it, they pretty much have to have a PPTA certification at this point in time.
Okay. So Brad, when I say you've been playing the game for a long time, I don't mean to imply that you're old, but you are.
I think that is the implication.
Yeah. So when I started playing the tournaments, you were playing at that point, so that tells you how old you really are.
That's correct.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the evolution of the game and what you've seen transpire in the last, 15, 20 years?
Well, first of all, there's a lot less people speaking English, Oh, Juan, sorry, are you back there? But no, it's actually been an amazing transformation. The advent of that many more pros playing in the game. So the game's become that much more athletic. Back in the day, it really was place the overhead deep, perfect spot, side back wire, very much a lot of traditional play. Now hitting for the nick, a lot of rollers, spin overheads are prevalent, not just among one or two guys, but across the board. The basics of the game remain the same. Keep the ball in play percentage paddle. If you don't have a good opportunity to hit an offensive shot, keep the lobs back deep until you get the ball that you can hit. You have to stay with that, and you have to have the ability to do that at any time. But so many more players now are taking wrist shots at the nick, a lot more balls rolling, and the play gets faster and more athletic because of that.
How do you think Steve Baird and Rich Mayer and some of the greats of that era would do in this game?
They would still do great. Baird and Mayer back in the day, not only would be able to slow the pace down, but back in their day, they would rifle the ball off the screen. It was much different too. The screens weren't as tight. There's much more basic, the actual courts themselves are more universal. The balls are more universals. Back in those days, guys would loosen up their screens a little, create some dead spots. You wouldn't be able to drive it through, go back and get it as often as you can nowadays. So there's a lot less. In fact, there was really not that much serving and staying back. It was all serving, getting up and playing. Letting the ball go through didn't happen quite as often. They would still do great. I mean, Steve Baird could take a ball off the screen from anywhere, hold it, drive it from multiple spots. Great lob, great competitor. Richie Mayer had a huge forehand, both tremendous hands at the net. So they would do great in any era. It's sort of like the conversation of saying, how would Pete Sampras do against Rod Laver? I don't know.
One of the huge evolutions I have seen in the game is it used to be that the onus was on the team at the net to do something. The team in the backcourt could stay back and lob and lob and lob. And that part has changed. Whereas now the team at the net is going to beat you at some point, at least amongst the top players. and you're forced to make a play from the backcourt. I mean, I had the pleasure of playing against Mark Parsons last weekend, and he's constantly aiming for the nick, and you feel that pressure to make a play from the backcourt and not just lob, 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 which is where the game was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, not only is he constantly forcing you to eventually make a play, he's making you move consistently. You're always moving up and in. And then when you do make the play, they've also got a guy at the net there ready to pick off the ball, so it's tough. You know, even playing today, you know, we just had our practice sets, constantly on the move. When that ball's going for the nick and you're not sure where it's going to go, both players are active and having moved to one spot to the other. So I agree with you. You know, that being said, though, there's still a place for learning to control the pace of the game. You know, there are certain times when playing fast is going to help you, and certain times when taking the air out of the ball and slowing it down will help you too. But you're absolutely right. You know, they're forcing players to play from the backcourt because it's a lot harder to defend back there.
Tomorrow will be 4 weeks to the 2015 APTA Nationals in Chicago. Whom, if anybody, do you give a shot to beat the two-time defending champions Mark Parsons and Johan Durant? You
know, that's a really good question. To give a shot to beat them, I mean, you'd have to say, of course, they're the overwhelming favorites, without a doubt. You know, we did witness, and I did commentary with you, a great semifinal match between Juan and Leonard against them.
That was terrific.
It was a great match. They certainly had, you know, because you have two ends of the coin with those guys. You have to have the firepower to hurt them, and then you have to also be able to withstand their offensive barrage. You have to be a great volleyer and have some offense at the backcourt. You know, they showed that day that they can stay with them and hang with them toe-to-toe. But to actually win 2 out of 3 sets at that style of game, and if you try to slow it down, eventually they're going to cut one in there, or you're going to make a mistake, and they're going to put some extra pressure on you. I think they probably could have taken a little more risk in the finals. You know, if those guys can adapt their style to some degree to bring, you know, the funny thing,
meaning Broderick and Palmer.
Right. The funny thing about it is Drew can hit a lot of different offensive shots and cut shots. Well, I think his, you know, philosophy is don't go for anything unless it's a guarantee. But I've, you know, seen him out there in matches where he knows he's going to win, and he opens it up to a much different degree than he does in that type of situation. So I think they're probably going to have to take some more risk at various times, either with the return or, you know, some attacking shots for sure. You know, so I would say those are the teams that could probably challenge at this point in time. I'm trying to think. I mean, do you have any others that you have in mind?
I mean, I think those two teams are the only ones I really see with an opportunity. I think Juan and Leonard have the best shot to beat them because of their offense. I worry that Drew and Jared just can't get to the net. I mean, I think that they're okay at the net, but Drew doesn't have a lot of intent in coming in behind his serve, and if you're playing 75–80% of the time for the baseline, as we talked about earlier with the overheads, you're not going to beat those guys from the backcourt. You've got to get to net to beat those guys.
You know, in a wild card way, too, I guess you'd have to say, you know, strangely enough, in last year's Nationals, Mike Cochran and Scott Estes came within a hair of taking that second set. And strangely enough, if anything could have happened there from that point forward, you know, Mike does have that kind of offense where he might be able to wild card it in there, you know. I mean,
no question.
So he's an interesting one. If the conditions get a little worse, he's pretty good in the, you know, the rain.
Mike won our screenshots poll about best bad weather paddle player.
Yeah, so, you know, I'd put an outside shot in there too.
Okay, well, thank you for your thoughts there. Before I let you go, being one of the premier teachers in the game, can you give us some tips for both the beginner, the advanced, and also maybe intermediate, the 3 levels of the game?
Sure, absolutely. You know, for the beginner, I would say, you know, the most important part that I see in terms of even good tennis players who become paddle players is spend some time working on your overhead. You know, and it's not a very sexy tip, but put a dot out there, go out with a pro partner, be able to have him hit you lob after lob, and you be able to place that ball on that dot the right pace. Move the dot over, hit attacking overheads into the screen the right pace, one after another. And if you can do that and control the overhead, then you'll find your net play is that much more balanced in their control. I found a lot of people up hitting hard and fast, running on top of the net, then the lob goes up, you know, loss of control, all back and forth, but it's all self-made back and forth rather than self-made control of the net and keeping control of it. So that's a good tip there. And it really, you know, it's not that exciting, but if you can actually put the ball on the dime, that's a great thing. And now you can actually control where you're going to go. You're going to know where to stand next, and you're going to be in pretty good shape controlling the net. I mean, of course, there are many tips to give. For advanced players, And for more advanced players, one of the things I like to focus on with them is the ability to understand when to let the ball go through, when to give up the net, when to stay back. And if you're back there and you're having to make some tough digs in there, understand how your grips work for you. For instance, I'll grab a paddle here. Since, a lot of people are taught with the regular Continental getting their screens, and that's great. But I'd like to see somebody, if it's a tough dig, you go to an Eastern forehand on the backhand side, opens up the face even more. You'll see the top players at most levels in the men's and women's game can get the ball 6 inches to the ground or lower, right? And then it comes to the forehand side, you can do the same thing, go from the Continental and slightly over more towards an Eastern backhand, opens up that face. Now you're going to get the ball from, again, 6 inches off the ground or lower. Make a few more digs, one more ball in play. It's all the difference in the world. Yeah, so I think those are good tips to start off with.
Okay, terrific. Please consult your PPTA professional for more tips.
Absolutely. And if anybody does need to register or they want to inquire about getting a PPTA certification, you can contact me directly at Brad Easterbrook at optonline.net, or you can contact Tiffany White at tfoxwhite@pptausa.com, and get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to get you through the process. We have upcoming certifications going on March 23rd and 24th. And
where's that
also, that's going to be here in New Canaan, Connecticut. We have one also upcoming in Chicago, and I'm actually setting one up in Atlanta. So if any of your Southern players are down here, we're going to have an Atlanta certification as well. So thanks for having me, Mark.
Well, terrific, and we'll look forward for some exciting news coming out of the PPTA in the coming months.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have an extended stay for Brad Easterbrook today.
Very
in
excited.
an attempt to be diplomatic, which is something he never is. Juan Araya has decided to let you pick the women's matches.
Great.
Not that Juan has pissed anybody off in the last 20 minutes, but maybe before that.
Yeah, 20 minutes? Yeah.
Okay, so let's start at the top of the draw. We're going to go straight to the 16s. Dardis Shea and Maine Parsons.
All right, so in the women's draw we have, Dardis and Shea. Now against Isla Maine and Dana Parsons. Oh, gee, that's a good match. There's a lot of weapons over there on Maine and Parsons, a lot of offense. But Dardis and Shea are gamers. They know how to play. They'll be able to slow it down, speed it up, and Amy's got good offense, and they're such a seasoned team. Maine and Parsons is still a pretty new team. I have to give the edge there to Dardis and Shea and something like a 7-5, 6-4 match.
Okay, so the winner of that match plays the winner of Liz Cruz and Gabby Nicolescu against Bobo Delaney and Tonya Mangan.
Wow.
Old school versus new school.
That is a great matchup of old school versus new school. How about that? Cruz and Nicolescu both hit the ball off both wings hard. A lot of offense out there.
Liz is playing some terrific paddle.
Liz has become one of the top players in the game for sure. And Bobo and Tonya have a great method of playing, perfect
a little bit
style.
like we talked about in the interview.
Sure, absolutely. But I just have to think Cruz and Nicolescu have too much offense off all wings. It's going to be hard for them to find a spot to consistently hit the ball. And then the return of serve on both ends for both those guys, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. And Bobo and Tonya can stay back and keep the ball and play a long, long time. But as we said, I think, Liz and Gabby can hit at the neck, and they'll put some pressure on them for sure. So
okay, I'm in agreement with you there too. Moving on to the next section of the draw, we have Liz Jaffe and Lisa Rudloff against Kerry Flynn and Myrta Molenvold.
That's great. Now, I had the pleasure of seeing Myrta play the other night at the Field Club of Greenwich.
What do you think?
She's great. She's very athletic, and she seems like she's got a really good mentality, like a tough competitor. She was playing with the guys. She was playing with your partner, in fact, Aman, and she seemed like she has a ton of energy, ton of competitive fire. So I think she's going to be in there. And Kerry, of course, is a master
warrior.
competitor and a warrior in her own right. So I think that is a great matchup. I also had the pleasure of playing a little mixed exhibition with Liz Jaffe and Lisa Rudloff last weekend over in Flint, Washington.
So you should be in a great position to call this match.
It should be. I am got to go with the seasoned team over the new team in this particular case. I honestly can't call it though, but I'm going to give the edge to Jaffe and Rudloff there.
Okay, I think that Flynn and Molenvold's got a great chance, and I think that Myrta's got a national championship in her future.
I think she probably does. She's tough.
Winner of that match plays Noyes and Ohlmuller.
All right.
Any thoughts on that?
I think the winner of that goes through the last match.
Okay, I'm in agreement with that. So now let's go to the bottom of the draw. Lauren Mendel and Sue Tarzan are playing the team from Philadelphia, Coaches and Ward, who I'm told are really exciting, talented players. Have you seen them play at all?
I have not seen them play at all. So that'll be exciting to actually get the opportunity to see those guys come out and play.
Winner of that match plays McNitt and Spitz.
Now, Coaches and Ward are playing Mendel and Tarzan. Okay.
And whoever comes through there plays McNitt and Spitz, and the winner of that ultimately will probably play Roxy Janika and Martina Andrakova.
Okay, Roxy and Martina they're tough. They're my calls for the tournament, so I'm going to have to stick with them going through. And not having seen Coaches and Ward play, I can't actually call that match. Mendel and Tarzan are playing this as their first year together. They've been working very, very well. Sue's a great technician, and a great
They've had a tough year.
They haven't worked out where the offense is coming from and how they're positioning themselves. Lauren likes to hit the ball off both wings, but a little inconsistent.
On the bottom of the draw, we got Gio and Schneeback against Kazakovich and Prop, which is interesting, because Prop and Schneeback obviously played together for many years.
Yeah, that'll be fun. You've had so many partners. I'm sure you played a bunch of your partners over the years, right? But it's always fun to play against your partner. You know so much about their games, right? And oftentimes, whether you're good friends or not, you really want to go at it and take the win if you can. So that'll be a good fight. That'll be terrific.
So the winner of that match plays Anna and Vicky, who I think will be coming through. So in the bottom half of the draw, I think it's pretty clear that Roxy and Martina are going to play Anna and Vicky in the semis. Top half of the draw a little more complicated. We have Dardis and Shea versus Cruz and Nicolescu. Who do you like in that match?
That's a great match.
New age, old school once again.
Yeah, I mean Dardis and Shea.
Amy Shea a little bit
in between.
Age. Yeah, a little bit in between, but clearly Cynthia Dardis old school.
I would say Cruz and Nicolescu going through again for the firepower. But again, you would never cut out Dardis and Shea under any circumstances. But I'll take Cruz and Nicolescu going through there to the semifinal, actually.
And you like Delmonico Gebbia coming out against either Jeffy Rudloff or Flynn Mullenville?
That's a tough call.
But that's why you're here, Brad.
I know, to make the tough calls.
Tough calls, yeah.
Is that why Juan's not here?
I could have had Max here. And he would have said, maybe, I'm not sure.
Right. In that case there, I'm going to actually go with Delmonico and Gebbia going through to the semifinals.
Okay, so in the top half of the draw, Cruz and Nicolescu, Delmonico Gebbia. Who do you like there?
I like Cruz and Nicolescu going through to the final against Roxy and Martina.
And Roxy and Martina in the finals?
I do have them that way only because I don't think Vicky's been playing a lot. But, how do you call against Anna and Vicky?
Well, last time they played in Chicago, Roxy and Martina played them 3 tough sets, won the first, had a chance to win the second before losing in 3. Vicky was a little sick that day. But as you say, who knows what condition she's going to be in. She hasn't played that much battle.
Right. So it'll be interesting to say the least, the women's draw.
Okay, we'll turn in Saturday and Sunday to platformtennis.org and watch the matches live. You might catch Brad and I there too.
Terrific. I hope to be there.
Brad, thanks for your picks.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, tomorrow is the Short Hills men's draw, which I think is going to be rated at 3.35 on the men's side.
Great.
Let's start off in the top of the draw. I see Broderick Palmer and Ines Urdoya pretty much making it through to the quarters without a lot of challenge. Let's leave that alone. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
First real interesting round of 32 match is Caldwell Cordish versus Kaylor Stulek. How do you see that unfolding?
I think it's going to be a great match. Caldwell and Cordish have been playing now for a while this season. They've been practicing, they've been playing tournaments. I think Caldwell was playing practice match this week with Parsons and somebody. And DJ, I couldn't join them because I was too busy with my new job. But they've been playing more. I think they have a chance this time. I think they can beat them. I think that Caldwell Cordish is going to go through in that one.
Okay, if they make it through to the 16s, they'll face Anthony Casamano and Nathan Lefevre.
Yeah. Well, we've been
not played particularly well of late.
They haven't been playing great. I think that at any other tournament I would have picked Cossey and Nathan, but this time Caldwell and Cordish are more, they're getting back into paddle shape. I think I would give them a chance. I think it's 50-50.
So
it's hard.
Time to make a call.
Okay, so who do you pick?
Kazi and Lefevre.
Okay, I'm picking Caldwell and Cordish.
And if I had said Caldwell and Cordish, would you have said Kazi and Lefevre?
Of course.
Of course. Okay, so when they get through there, I anticipate they'll end up playing Grangero Wilkinson. We'll get back to the top half of the draw.
Yeah.
Bottom half of the draw, terrific round of 64 matchup between a couple of cage fighters. The mental giant, Brian O'Connor, John Pastel playing Brad Easterbrook, a guest on the show, and Ian McDonald.
Yeah.
How do you see that match?
It all depends how the mental giant, if the mental giant wakes up as a mental giant or as a mental midget. You know, I just think the Bradford is a solid player there.
Clearly the best player on the court.
I mean, I don't know if the best player on the court, but the smartest player on the court. Brian has all the shots. I mean, yeah, Brad is probably the best player, but then Ian is probably the weakest player on the court. So, you know, it takes two to win. We always say that.
And Brad's not interested in lobbing that much.
And John is playing very well. John honestly has been playing very well this season.
You're not just saying that buoys confidence as a cage fighter, are you?
No, I believe in my team.
And you didn't say that about Brian O'Connor, I noticed.
In my team, we have 11 players. But I think, even though the Bradford is here as a guest and he's there, I will have to pick Brian and John.
Okay, so the winner of that match will play Morgan and Schmigdal in from Chicago.
Yeah, Morgan and Schmigdal just won the Illinois State event. I don't know how many teams were playing in it, but I think Noel Riley were playing it. So it was a good draw. I mean, there are a lot of great players in the state of Illinois. But I would pick Morgan and Schmidtgall. Adam Morgan is playing very well. We played them in the Midwesterns and he played very well. He had a couple of loose games that I think that made the difference in our match with Max against Paget and him. But Dane Schmidtgall is a solid player. I really like the way he plays. I like his style a lot.
So the winner of that match plays Scott Falatek and Vladi Najek.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting match.
Who do you like there?
I would pick Morgan and Schmidtgall. I think that Vlatko and Scott are a solid team, but Dane and Adam will have, I think they have a little more offense.
Okay, the spirit of disagreeing, I'm going to pick Falatek and Najek.
Great, I love it.
Okay, so that would leave us with Lubao DeRose getting through to the quarters against Falatek Najek in the bottom half of the draw.
Why Falatek Najek if I pick Morgan and Schmidtgall?
Well, I'm just assuming you're going to be wrong.
Okay.
So in the bottom half of the draw...
But you're forgetting that I'm almost always right.
Almost always right. So in the bottom half of the draw, the 5th seed Bostrom Bredberg are probably going to end up playing Guga Gonçalves and Graham McInerney for the 3rd time this year in the round of 16. Do you give Graham and Guga any chance there?
It's tough. Like we always, in every show we seem to be talking about the same thing. I think that, and you agreed on this, one thing we agree actually, that Guga can play as a 10 and he can play as a 1.
I always remember that practice session we had with Meninas
yeah,
Arden.
and then at night,
unbelievable match that night.
Yeah, so it just depends on which Guga shows up.
Hard not to like Sebi and Martin.
No, I will still pick, even if Guga shows up as a 10, I will still pick Martin and Sebi because they've been in a very solid team this season. They've been playing great. They've been getting very far in the tournaments, and you know they had a lot of wins this season. So. Okay,
bottom half of the draw. I know you don't pick yourself, but I'm going to put you into the quarters. We'll come back to that in a minute. So first quarterfinal up top: Roderick Palmer versus Ines Urdoya, rematch of the finals of Patterson earlier this year, which was a runaway. Do you give Mark and Mick any shot at that?
No.
Okay. Next quarterfinal is, I guess I have Kazi Lefevre, you have Caldwell Cordish versus Grangero Wilkinson.
Yeah, I like Marco and George there. Even though they're not playing their best, they're good enough to beat any of those teams. What do you think?
I think they're struggling. I think it really depends on how well Nathan's playing. I mean, Nathan played very poorly in Cincinnati. He and Anthony played a real bad quarterfinal match against Baxter and Heath. I look for Kazi and Lefevre to find a way through.
I like all these guys, but I would love to see the return of Caldwell Cordish.
That would be awesome.
That would be pretty cool, even though I mean,
David in a lot of ways invented New Age paddle. He was the first guy.
I mean, I'm very close to Marco and George, and we practice all the week, and of course I would want them to go through. But the return of an old school team is pretty good.
An old school New Age team.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so bottom half of the draw: Lubao DeRose versus either Falatek Najek or Marino Schmigdal. Lubao DeRose have struggled this year.
Yeah,
I don't think they've held a seed maybe once all year?
Yeah, I would pick whoever wins the match between Morgan and Schmidtgold and Falatek Nasdaq. So in my case, I would pick Morgan and Schmidtgold to make it through.
I'll pick Falatek and Najek.
That's pretty good.
Okay, Bostrom Bredberg versus Araya Lepever.
I honestly think it's going to be a great match. We know each other very well. Not only that Martin and I were pretty much teaching at the same facility, even though he works for a different club. The field club rents our court indoor in the bubble, and today in the morning he was teaching, and I say, okay, I'll see you tomorrow in the quarters, and he goes, well, I hope. I said, what do you mean? You're definitely going to make it. And he goes, well, but I don't know if you will. So
he's a cocky guy.
Oh, Martin is. He can't get any cockier than Martin.
It's unbelievable.
Martin is super cocky. Yeah.
Okay, so.
But I like. I'm gonna pick us. I'm
gonna pick you also.
I'm feeling confident.
Okay, so that brings us to the semis. We would have a Broderick Palmer versus. We both agree they're getting through with either against Kazi Lefevre or Marco and George. Hard not to pick Broderick Palmer there.
Yeah, they're playing great. I mean, I think it's another final for them, another Sunday match for them.
And then we've got you guys versus either Morgan and Schmigdal or Falatek and Ijek.
Yeah.
So I'm picking you guys.
Good.
Do you want to pick your match there? Or?
I'm not picking.
Okay, that takes us to the finals. Well, we got Broderick Palmer versus I picked you guys, and then you have nobody in the finals because you wouldn't pick anybody. So I guess you can't pick anybody in the finals. So I'm going to pick you and Max to win the tournament.
Okay, well.
Which would probably push you up to 2 in the country.
Well, I don't know.
Which is the highest any Frenchman has ever been ranked.
In any sport?
In any sport.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And considering he's playing with an Argentine, that's even better.
Highest French-Argentine ranking.
Oh my God. I don't think there was there ever any French-Argentine team on any sport?
Not that I can think of.
It's just...
We'll have to go back through the archives.
Yeah.
Okay, so any final thoughts on the draw?
I think it's a super stacked draw. It's going to be a lot of competitive matches. I mean, whatever we say, I mean, so many of these matches can go.
Well, they're usually decided by a point here, a point there.
It's just crazy. So I think it's going to be a great tournament. I hope the weather holds. So
yeah, it'd be nice to have a tournament without rain and snow.
Yeah, it will be very nice. So I'm looking forward to it. We just practiced. Max is playing well. So let's hope for a good weekend.
Well, that finishes our wrap up for the Short Hills men. Tune into platformtennis.org and watch the live stream tomorrow.